health issues.
Thank you, doctor. Yep. Thank you very much. Mr. Krishna. 7.
Before I begin, I would like to mention that I have an issue with my speech, so I think there'll be no issue. So I would like to thank every one of you to give me this opportunity to share my work. So I was SBI Youth for India fellow for the past 1 year. I was working in a village called Lobi in near Nagpur of So my work was on a rural innovation studio, wherein the main objective is to enable rural kids and youth to develop appropriate technologies using the resources which is available around them. The main inspiration to take up this project was from NIF, because I had the opportunity to work as an intern there during my college days. So there I could see how kids could come up with simple solutions to complex issues. So the main problem that I saw is that during my initial days of my fellowship, many technological interventions were not adopted or accepted properly, because they were designed with an urban perspective. So I wanted the people there to innovate for themselves. So in short, the local issues needed to be solved locally. It should be in context. And also, as you were all experienced people in this domain of rural development, the localites have better insights of what is available and what do they need. Instead of me being an engineer going and say like, hey, this is your problem and this is your solution, than that, if they could innovate for themselves, I think it will be more better. And also, I observed that though there are many innovative indigenous people, but then they lacked a proper organized approach towards developing products. So this is where I introduced my project. And also, unlike urban areas, the rural areas lack monetary as well as material resources. So the main goals were to train the youth in design thinking, problem solving, and building skills. Also, to inculcate the attitude to build and solve solutions. For example, in India, most education is either limited to just learning science concepts, or maybe little advanced. They do experiments, practical experiments, and then what? It's not applied in real life. That's what I wanted to solve. So first I started with schools, because I have this language gap. I do not know Hindi even, and not even the local language. So I started with schools because the teachers knew a little bit of English. And the first model was making toys. So this initiated interest in kids to build stuff. So the main thing is like I would present them a box full of assorted scrap materials, and they will have to build on their own. So there are no instructions given, and it's up to their imagination. And next was model making, where very simple mechanisms and linkages, joints, everything was explained to them. So through this they understood basic handling of tools even. So next, so in phase 2, I designed this design process which is adapted to the village scenario. I took inspiration from different teaching methodologies like project dHive, design for yourself, and self-organized learning environments. I would be explaining about each step in the next slides. So the first was ideation, wherein we followed we didn't have any design parameters as such. They will have to expand the imagination and think about whatever is the solution to their issues. And next was validation, where the ideas were converged according to the design parameters that I defined them, like is it safe to use, less number of parts, less cost, and all those things. And those feasible ideas that have been shortlisted were passed on to the next stage, rapid prototyping, where mock-up models were made, and it is just to study how it works. And next, the prototyping, where I had a small space in front of my house, like we didn't have a proper maker space. So here they learned tool handling, how to build stuff, and how to estimate cost. Like they have to give me bill of materials, they have to do a proper thing like an engineer, like what they do, they will have to do, the students have to do. So next was testing and iteration, where each product that we built were field tested with at least 5 to 6 families. And interestingly, these families came with so much interest that they were involved in the design thinking as well. They solved problems. So from here on, the people also got involved in the process. So next was deployment, where the products after the iterations of the different iterations were deployed in the field, and the whole process was documented by the students. So and then we also developed a video training module, so that the innovations that were developed was shared as open source. So we have developed 6 ideas, as in the first 3 were built and field tested, and the next 3 are ongoing. Sorry. So the first one was to carry food. So as you would have seen, like women in villages, they used to carry wood in their heads, and that causes a lot of neck pain and problems with spine. So the kids wanted to solve what their mothers face every day. So they will have to walk like 4 kilometers into the forest and again to their homes. So they came up with a simple idea, wherein you just distribute the load uniformly over the shoulders and instead of the head. So this enabled them to carry heavier loads of wood with much ease. So and the cost was not more than 50 rupees, and the capacity like 20 kgs. And the interesting part was that I didn't know how to use bamboo, so I cannot teach the children. So the parents came forward, the members from the village, they came forward, and they taught us the indigenous joinery techniques. So this way they were also involved. So next was the smokeless hybrid chola. So this kid, as you can see, he developed this idea, wherein this chola is capable of heating water as well as cooking food at the same time. And we used all waste material, scrap material. As you can see, what he is holding in his hand is a heat exchanger. It's made of this window curtain pipes, because JA pipes is very expensive. So the whole point was to make it cheaper than the market available electric immersive heaters. So the next was the pedal powered washing machine. This was ideated, designed, prototype, everything by the kids, like the previous innovations as well. Maybe you could have seen this as an open source technology as well, but then we have adopted it. We have changed it to the needs of that village. Like we have introduced agitating flaps, as you can see in a proper washing machine. And also this has a feature like you pedal forward, it washes, you pedal reverse, it extracts the water out of the clothes. And thank you. And the next iteration of this model would be a drum with 2 wheels, so that a person, one who has that washing machine, can go house by house. They can put in clothes, and by the time he travels, it is done. Like the washing is done. So it's like that concrete mixers that you see on the roads. So it is like it also generates some kind of alternate livelihood, as well as it washes clothes. Yeah, and the other 3 ongoing projects are, the first one was the water conveyance device. So again, the women used to carry water in their heads and each not more than 10 to 12 liters. So the children again wanted to reduce the drudgery their mothers face every day. But maybe if you would have heard of that water wheel, Velo water wheel, but then it had its own disadvantages. Like even we bought one for testing purpose, but then it didn't had brakes. So our area is like kind of hilly. So whenever they used to go downhill, it just gets out of control, and even one lady fell down and she broke her head. So we wanted to solve this. So we came up with this idea. So this has a capacity of 100 liters and it can traverse rough terrains. Versus like the water wheel, it cannot go on rough terrains, like because in rural areas you cannot expect a flat surface for the entire drum to roll on. So this was exhibited at a farmers mela and we got a huge response. So this is iteration 2, wherein so the first model was, the problem was that it had 100 liters, and 100 liters means 100 kgs. So in case it falls down or anything happens, so we thought it's not safe. Plus those in hilly areas, they cannot pull 100 liters up a hill. So we wanted to give in different versions, like 35 and 50 liters. So they can maybe add up according to their need. So this has a suspension that you have in automobiles, and double wishbone suspension, and the whole poster is, it can explain on itself. So you need to just release brakes, you can travel and store at home. So the other two ongoing projects are foldable rain shields for bicycles. So like children who, like if you could have seen, children would be traveling for 10 kilometers or something to schools in villages. So during monsoon season, it's very difficult for them to ride against the rain. Like the drops fall on their eyes and they lose control. So they wanted to make a frame which, like, it's like a windshield. They can open up, you can lock it, and it acts as a shield, like windshield, like in automobiles. And then when they don't want it, they can just fold and keep it. So that's one project, and then safe jaggery producing machinery, where the village where I stayed, there are 20% of farming is sugarcane, and jaggery production is one of the main occupations. But then they were producing that large pans, which was not safe. So these kids came up with this idea, like a cylinder, and you just rotate and it produces uniform heating. It's just like very simple, but then it's very safe. So the outcomes, so the main outcome was that people started participating in the process because they felt proud of their child's innovations. That they, for instance, if we have just made a product, we need not go and outreach the product to the people. They themselves will outreach. The parents come forward as a voluntary thing, and they will do it. And the next is change in trends. That a lot of students actually stopped wasting their time, and they started investing their time more in our studio, and they developed stuff. And then also the parents thought that my son is improving, so they started encouraging a lot. So then so far 12 feasible ideas have been generated, with 3 ideas built and tested, as you have seen, and 4 students have become serial innovators. 15 plus highly trained students are in the design team. And as a result, because they are applying the education that they're learning in school in real life, they got more interested, and the attendance also increased. So regarding how it's going forward is like, so I'm basically compiling a prototyping handbook with a simplified engineering that any layman, even you could, if you have an idea, you could just show the images on the book and then you can buy materials. And then a local youth is in charge of the studio now. And we have also developed video training modules. And for way forward, interestingly, the people have come forward and proposed that we could make the products and then we could generate income out of it. So we are aiming at household level or SSG level enterprises, and then also production of development of products. So the way it can be made big is that to have a proper innovation hub in place. Because most of the tools we don't have, and we just make up things, and going to a local workshop is like often expensive. So if it is going to be an SSG level enterprise, they cannot afford to spend more than what they produce. So we are also planning to set up pilot level household or SSG level enterprises, and deployment of the firewood carrier and hybrid chula with for 500 plus households in the next 6 months. The external requirements would be like the funding to set up of innovation hubs, and providing access to computers and internet connectivity so that they don't they're not left alone, and then also support in backward and forward linkages. Thank you. This is my team.